and it's 6:30.
Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and start. I want to welcome everyone to the City of Greenfield public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant Program. My name is MJ Adams. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development, and I'm here with my staff, Christian LaPlante, who serves as our Grant Program Assistant. And I want to introduce a new staff member in my office, Anna Altman, and she will be serving as the Community Development Administrator moving forward. She actually started last Tuesday, and she's still showing up, so we're happy that we haven't found her yet in Community Development Block Grant information. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is multifold. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the grant application for Community Development Block Grants that we will be submitting at the end of February. Early, it's actually March 3rd, but we're hoping to get it in by the end of February. The second thing we'll talk about a little is seek community input on the plan to use some of our program income funds to do design work for ADA improvement upgrades for the Greenfield City Hall. And then I'll wrap up the program at the end with just an update on our activities. I want to share with you that this is informational, it's informal. I see we have 15 participants online. I'm going to ask that if you have a question, you raise your hand with the feature, and that Christian and Anna, if you could help, since I won't see everyone on the screen, if you could help me know when there's a question or a comment. And I'm going to ask that you save your comments till the end. I don't think it'll be that long to present the information, but then we'll take any sort of comments and have any sort of discussion about any aspects of the program towards the end. So to give you a little background, Greenfield is a community development block grant mini entitlement community. And that means that we receive funding. Let me see if I get this up. Yes, we receive funding every year. And we get, usually in the last couple of years, it's been about $825,000 a year. And Community Development Block Grant money is intended to assist communities that have low and moderate income neighborhoods or people, really spend that money in a way that improves their quality of life and their situation. That's something they call a national objective. So in addition to the benefiting low and moderate income neighborhoods and individuals, the second purpose you can use community development block grants for is to eliminate or prevent slum and blights. And I'll share with you that in 2016, the downtown area of Greenfield was designated as a slum and blight district. And what that means is that we get a little more flexibility in how we expend our community development block grant communities, CDBG money, than we would if it wasn't designated as slum and blight. And I want to share that designation is really just the downtown part of Greenfield, not the whole community, just the downtown area. So what you can see here on the screen, and I realize this was not up on our website, but we'll put it up there tomorrow, is what we have used our Community Development Block Grant Program funds for over the years. And there are eligible activities that we can use it for, and you can see the expenditure level over a number of years. More specifically, what I wanted to talk about this evening is the plan for our new grant application that is going in the end of February. We usually do this grant application once a year, and it was not run in March of 2022. So what they have done is that we have a 2-year grant that we are applying for that is due in March of 2023. So instead of having $825,000 a year that's being made available to us, we're going to have $1.65 million available to us. And let me flip over and open that up, and I can show you what our preliminary plans are for the program for this year.
MJ, can you put that in presentation mode so that we've got a prayer of reading any of those numbers? It's way too small.
Thank you. I was just going to ask that.
Okay. Let me see.
Just make it a little bigger. Yeah.
Try clicking view, and there might be an option.
There we go. How's that?
Or that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Ha 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 ha. All right. So sorry, I'm having a little I'm going to stop the share for a moment. Open it up again. Uh, 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 uh. Having a little bit of technical difficulty with my budget because this budget should have the draft budget on it. So I'm going to have to pull that up in a different way. So, well, I think that will be a little problematic for me. But anyways, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to present it verbally, and then at the end I'll pull the workshop, the spreadsheet up on it. So this year, the game plan is to fund several activities. We have some limitations in terms of what we can do. We are restricted to 4 different activities plus social services. So this year we are planning to allocate somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 to the Wells Street Shelter, which is a project that is being done by CSO and RDI. They are planning to acquire the property and to rehabilitate the shelter and extend there we go. I think I'm sharing now. So they are planning to, is that being shared? Yeah. So they are planning to, the existing shelter on Wells Street currently has a capacity of about 30 beds, and their game plan is that they are going to acquire the building, renovate it, expand the number of shelter beds, and then add an additional 36 units with a newly constructed wing onto that. And these are pictures actually from the Community Preservation Committee presentation that application that they submitted. And what you see here is the property footprint, and the idea is that this will expand some pretty critically needed housing in Greenfield. Community Support Options is going to be taking on shelter operations in the spring. And we're delighted that they're planning to renovate the shelter and create some additional residential units that will be supported with social services. Whenever an organization does something like this, they are always looking for, the state is looking for the city to be involved and supportive and engaged in the process. So our RDI and CSO have requested some funding to assist in the project. We're talking about the nature of how we will be using that CDBG money. It could very well be used to help with the relocation while the shelter is under renovation. But those are conversations we're having with the organizations. But the city wants the state to be aware that we are supportive of this. CSO and RDI did put in what's called a one-stop application, or they're about to put in a one-stop application and are expecting to hear on it. And we'll need, our contribution from the CDBG grant to make that whole. I also share with you that they've sought some money from the Community Preservation Act committee, and I know that recommendation is under review for the Wells Street project. Okay, so that's our first project under the CDBG grant that we're requesting funding for. The second project will be sidewalks. You may know that the city has made a commitment to try to upgrade and renovate sidewalks throughout the city. So we are now working with the DPW and the mayor's office to identify priority sidewalks and to seek funding for their reconstruction, which includes the ADA accessible, curb cuts and ramps that we see at the end of sidewalks. The third project that we will be seeking funding for will be the Main Street infrastructure. And let me hop onto this quickly. give you the. There. Can folks see that?
No, you'll have to back out and share to whatever new
Okay.
application you have open.
Mm. There we go. Thanks, Christian. So you know that we've been having some conversations about Main Street. We're looking at doing a Main Street improvement program that will extend from essentially from Coleraine Street through down Main Street all the way to High Street. And what that Main Street improvement program is about sort of a curb to curb reconstruction of the pavement. And taking a look at the complete streets recommendations that the city developed a couple of years ago, and doing some changing around the layout of how things work as we go through the downtown. And as we're doing this, the thought process has been, if we're digging up Main Street to replace the roadway, then we should be looking at the infrastructure underneath the roadway to make sure that it's up to current standards. So we've decided that we are going to do an evaluation and of the existing infrastructure and do design and engineering. So when the roadway is torn up to be reconstructed, we can replace any of the necessary infrastructure underneath so that we have the infrastructure that we need for a 21st century city. We know that the water mains on Main Street are undersized for fire protection purposes. You might know that there's new sprinkling requirements for a number of buildings. So we want to make sure that when the buildings are required to do that sprinkling upgrade, that when they tie into the water main, we have the capacity to handle that. So that the plan is to do design and engineering for the water, sewer, and drainage that will be done concurrently with the city's efforts to fund the roadway design, so that we are scheduled to be on we're on the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan for the state for the reconstruction of Main Street. At the moment, it's scheduled for 2027. If we're ambitious and diligent in getting our plans done, there is the possibility of that getting moved up. Clearly, this will be a big piece of work that happens in our downtown, and we want to make sure that we're planning it well and that the community is well aware of how that might impact things as we do this reconstruction. So that's the Main Street infrastructure is going to be one of the activities. The other element that we're going to be doing is the design work for Court Square. I think there it is. And let me see if I can make that bigger. You know that in 2017, the community did a design process where they thought about how to better use or how to, let's see if that works. Funky on this technology this evening, and I apologize for that. So the Court Square, the idea is to make it a pedestrian plaza between Town Common and City Hall. So there was some design work. We've done a pilot for the last couple of years. We've talked to folks about, trying to work out some of the bugs before we move it into final design. And so the game plan is to do the design and engineering work this summer and into the fall, so that we might step into construction in the summer of 2024. And part of the conversation we're having with the Main Street engineers is that the courts, whatever we do in Court Square, it's critical that we sort of get the dust to settle on that before the Main Street improvement program starts. So the timing and sequencing of things is pretty important here. And then the social services programs. We typically fund social service programs. We have historically funded the Center for Self-Reliance every year. That's our local food pantry that's run by Community Action. We have a couple other regulars. We received a total of 9 proposals this past season when we issued a request for proposal. Those were due in December. The committee has sat and reviewed and has forwarded recommendations to the mayor. she's reviewing those and we'll be making decisions about those in the next week and a half. But we're planning to seek funding for some social services that support the community development activities in the community. Like I said, there's been some programs that have been ongoing and some new ones. We were pleased that we had such a response, and we'll be issuing out those the recommendations have been forwarded to the mayor, and we'll be announcing those in the very near term. So that's the game plan on the community development block grant program. Like I said, we typically have this application go in every year. That there was in March of 2022, they did not do a grant round that time, and they've doubled up the grant round for this. So the 1.6 million is an unusually, well, it's a 2-year award. And I say that because next year at this time, we'll be doing the same type of submittal of an application, and people are always curious about the community development block grant process. And so it's usually around November, December, January, and February that we're working pretty actively on it. So that is the plan for what we're planning to submit in the end of February to the community development block grant program. And I also want to share with you that we'll have an in-person meeting on Monday evening at 5:30 at City Hall. If you'd like to attend a meeting in person. Are there any questions on this?
Nancy has her hand raised. Yeah.
Nancy, can you go ahead and unmute and I'll stop sharing?
Yeah, you, MJ, you started out and told us how much you were looking for the Wells Street project. Can you share the amounts that you're proposing for the other 4 things that you mentioned?
Right. It's still in flux. We're still waiting for some final cost estimates on the engineering work. So we're assuming that both for the Main Street infrastructure and the Court Square design, it will those line items will total somewhere in the nature of $375,000 to $500,000. On the sidewalks, we're ballparking about 200,000 for that line item. The social services, we are allowed to fund 5 activities. We are ballparking somewhere between 250,000 and 300,000 for the social service activities. And then we have an administrative budget that's about 22% of the grant. We're actually going to do a historic survey under our administrative funds this year. And that'll be about 363,000 that will look for admin money for the 2-year program. So the numbers aren't finalized yet, but we're somewhere in the nature of 1.6 million is what we'll be requesting. And the timeline for this
is very
is
helpful.
we submit the grant application in, like I said, in March. They make decisions usually around May or June, we hear it, and the startup time for the contract is usually around July 1st. But the reality is that we're not able to enter into contracts until August or September. So, all right, great. Any
I have
other?
a question. Yeah.
Sure.
MJ, I have Judith Roberts from the Literacy Project. First of all, great work, good, exciting things for Greenfield. And we want to thank the city for the funding that we got this past year. And we brought a student who just wanted to talk briefly. Amos, are you here? I only see your photo. Not sure. If he's...
Sorry, yes, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, we just Amos came because he is a resident of Greenfield. I'm not. I mean, I work in Greenfield, and he was going to speak briefly on the behalf of the program, because I know you said the impact that you're looking for is to improve quality of life, and I think all the measures that the city is undertaking will improve quality of life, and very important is the work of the Literacy Project to help people access education. So you're on, Amos.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. Beautiful ideas with the city. I love the idea of sorry, I'm on my cell phone, so if I'm moving, it's kind of my computer didn't work with the Zoom. I especially love the ideas with the the shelter being extended, because I had a few friends who were homeless and complained there was no room there. So that's good. But yeah, the impact of the literacy project has been great. I don't know where to start. But so I had lead poisoning as a kid, which gave me a learning cap. Like I couldn't absorb new information after that. But it seems to have kind of subsided now that I'm an adult, but I'm facing other problems. But that led to depression and a drug addiction, and I'm now 1.5 years sober from. And I decided to rewrite those fixed. We just went over this in class the other day. There's like fixed connections in your brain, like the negative thoughts. Why bother? You're dumb. Don't do it. And I learned that you can rewrite those at the literacy project. And I passed my high set. I went at the end of October, and I did it really quick. I got it like mid-December. So I went for all of November and like 2 weeks of December, and I passed, because Beth there is amazing. She has been able to teach me math when other teachers have gotten frustrated and gave up. And she believed me when I explained to her my brain works backwards and fast forwards, and I can't show my work. So she taught me how to show my work so that I know where I did wrong. And it was amazing. And now I love math. Like, I'm in class and I'm 2 chapters ahead, and all the students are still halfway through like chapter 2-1. I'm all the way up on 2-4, and Liz is like, slow down, do the homework. So then I do 2 pages of homework, and I'm like, I never thought I would be liking math and flying through it. And the literacy project helped me achieve that. And that's like the positive impact that it's done in my life.
Amos, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate hearing.
Thanks.
from
And
you.
Amos is here with one of his other teachers, Joshua, a friend. Give a wave, Joshua. And yeah, Amos is going to Greenfield Community College in the fall. So we're really excited for him.
Excellent.
And yeah, so while I have the floor, did you have something you wanted to say, Joshua, or you just? Joshua's one of our teachers and site director in Greenfield.
I'll take the floor really quick. I know we have a lot to cover. I just want to say really quickly, I'm the site director in Greenfield. I've been there since teaching there since 2018, site director since 2020. Since the pandemic, you all probably know the dropout rate for high school students across the state has increased quicker than it's ever had before. And we've been really lucky that we already have an existing close relationship with Greenfield Public Schools and Turner Swells High School. And we've been able to close the gap with the students that are leaving those schools earlier than they would have, and kind of keep them in the network of education. And our graduation rate in Greenfield has been the second highest in the state for a few consecutive years now. And I think we're really proud to feel like we're helping keep, students who otherwise would be leaving the educational system engaged and moving forward with their goals. And I feel like that work is just becoming more and more important as the fallout of the pandemic seems to continue to present itself in all sorts of different ways. So thank you all for supporting us.
Thank you for your information there, Joshua. We appreciate it. Okay, I see other hands that are up. Can I call on Luis?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Joshua and to Amos for speaking, for telling us this story, and Joshua for the teaching that you do. I think that's a very special calling, and I congratulate you for that. The reason my question is about, since we're talking about developing Greenfield right now, and we're talking about remaking Main Street, it just seems like it's all going to happen at the same time. And I'm wondering if anybody's thought that through. It just seems like a clash of projects. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Louise. I share with you the concern that there seems to be a lot happening on that map. We have the 4 pages of map, and it shows the things that have been happening and the things that are coming down the pipeline. I think that it's exciting for downtown Greenfield because there's been a lot of talk over the years. When I came on board for the city, we had just been designated as a slum blight district, and I was given the marching orders, do something about downtown. So I was able to be working with the other department heads and committees in Greenfield, and we see a lot of activity now coming to fruition in downtown, and it feels like we're trying to create the downtown that sustainable Greenfield envisioned for us. So I think that one of the things I mentioned when I put the Main Street posters out is that there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of good things happening, and that we have to be mindful of how that gets planned out and how it's communicated so that the folks who will be impacted by that have the best lead time and to be able to prepare for that impact. So yes, it does feel like a lot, but there's also the rationale that if we're going to be digging up the street, we might as well get the biggest bang for the buck so that when we're digging up the street, we're taking care of the stuff that's underneath, so there won't be intermittent problems that we're always coming and digging up and disrupting traffic. So yes, I mean, I look at the scope of work and I worry, because planners are professional warriors about how this will play itself out. But I think if we keep sharing it over and over again and keeping people updated on what is going to happen, then we can make the best of it. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll also say some of it's dependent on us making sure that we're getting the funding at the appropriate time so we can align these different activities. So that's why you see some of the investment in the design and engineering so that things are shovel ready. When the federal resources become available, we can then tap them. Or when a project really needs something to happen and they're bringing jobs or housing units to downtown, the city is already showing its commitment to make sure that the public realm is up to snuff in terms of supporting that project. Yeah. Great. All right. Crispin Youngberg.
Yeah, hi MJ. Thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions about the Main Street redesign part of it. Firstly, just quickly, I think I didn't catch when you said what year you were currently imagining actual construction starting. Could you just remind me of that?
Sure. At the moment, it's on the transportation improvement plan for fiscal year 27.
Okay, thank you. And then I had a couple of questions. So I live and work in Greenfield, and I commute to my job, every day by bicycle, and I go down Main Street. And it's currently pretty dangerous. I think the angle parking is very unsafe, very poor visibility, and I'm glad to see that's not in the redevelopment plan. I know this is already thinking a few years ahead, but I'm sort of interested to know if there are plans to join this up with other stuff happening in the rest of the town, because in terms of making Greenfield a safe town to cycle around, doing just one street only gets you so far. We've got significant other parts of town that are not on Main Street that are also very unsafe for cyclists right now. So I'd like to hear about how it connects to other longer term transport planning for the town.
Sure. And what I can share with you is that the city of Greenfield has a complete streets program that is led out of the planning department. Eric Torog is the planning director, and there's a whole complete streets prioritization plan that is on the website for the planning and development department. And I would invite you to take a look at that. And if you have any questions about the connectivity between what we're doing on Main Street with the other complete street efforts, Eric would be the point person. What I'll also say is for the Main Street Improvement Program, there's actually going to be a community meeting, the first workshop on the roadway reconstruction and what that's going to look like. Will be happening on February 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the John Zahn Center. And I'll also share with you that we know that the parking configuration, and I want to point out that it says draft all over that map because it's a draft. And there has been a lot of conversation with the business community and with people who use downtown about angle parking versus parallel parking, and also the supply of parking spaces. And I'll share with you that we have a parking management study that's just starting off. And if you want to learn all about that, 5:30 next Tuesday night, in person at John Zahn, we'll have the parking management study consultants with us to talk about the plan for getting our arms around the parking. Because parking, roadway layout, who uses downtown and how they use it and how they use it safely is a really important piece that we want to get right in this process.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, Kelly.
Hi, MJ, Kelly Ben-Ezra. I am both a Greenfield resident and also the director of shelter and housing for CSO. I know you know this, but I'm just sharing this with other people. I think I just want, if this is not a question, I just want to acknowledge the effort that is made. Greenfield has such limited CDBG funds anyway. I know that we get more this time around, and that is really exciting, but I know how difficult it is to cut it up for all of the various needs that exist in this region. And so I just wanted to sort of acknowledge the support that is coming for the Greenfield shelter and the development there. I attended a meeting today for the Recover Project to share plans about this transition and for the project's development to increase the beds from 30 to 40 and also to add 36 units of permanent supportive housing. It's such an important aspect of what this whole thing is going to do. That permanent housing is really needed. It's the next step to open up beds that currently exist that have been full for a very long time. There were 2 people at that meeting today who talked about how long they've been waiting to get into a bed at the shelter. And just recently I was at the shelter and met somebody who's been there for 2 years. And, you know, his only hope is finding housing outside of the shelter. And so, you know, it's both of these pieces together. I think I just want to share that like COVID really changed what sheltering looks like. And I'm really thrilled that the state has made it possible for us to maybe do something different, that, you know, in order to meet the need that's been demonstrated through the pandemic. And I think that this resource is really the funding that's needed as a local commitment to demonstrate to our applications that the city is really invested in making this happen. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Johanna Whitley.
Hi, I'm glad I can follow up on Kelly's comments. Pretty much everything, you know, of late, every time I've been talking at a community meeting, I'm really leaning into, you know, we are at a time in history where finally we are almost beginning to admit that people with disabilities have a right to exist in our communities everywhere. Every project that you've been talking about, I encourage you to really include that deeply and broadly, thinking about disability, not just in stereotypic kinds of ways, or not just meeting the ADA, you know, being ADA compliant, because the ADA is the low bar. It's what you do to not get sued. It's not necessarily what you do to recognize the full humanity of the people that you're working with who have different kinds of disabilities. So it's very exciting to hear about all these different things happening, but if they get done and people have not really been thinking smartly about disability inclusion and human rights from a disability perspective, we're going to have to do the, you know, all the costly issues of do-overs, because people will come and say, you didn't do this and you didn't do that, and we have a right to be included. So I know we've got lots of people in the community who are doing good work on this issue. And I really encourage you to work on including those people, drawing on their what they bring to the conversation as early as possible, so that you don't have to spend time further down the road in a project realizing, oh, we need to redesign this or we need to rethink that, because we got all the curb cuts right, but we forgot about the people who are immunocompromised, just as one example. So thank you for your good work. It's really exciting. And please remember, people with disabilities are people too.
Thank you, Joanna. Great. Deb McLaughlin.
Good evening, everyone. Deb McLaughlin. I'm the coordinator of the opioid task force for Franklin County and the North Quabbin region. And like others, I just want to comment on the role that the city has been playing to help support the expansion of services for those who are housing insecure or unhoused in our region. The opioid task force has a written letter that will be forthcoming to support the expansion of the Wall Street project that's being co-managed by RDI and the CSO. And we're very excited to see how this constellation of partners are coming together to offer these enriched, services for the vulnerable among us. As one of the entities that's co-convening an emergency services task force for unhoused individuals for the whole region with Heather Bielecki Canning of the North Quabbin Community Coalition. I want to give a shout out to Amy Clark, who's here from the Interfaith Council. I know Kelly Ben-Ezra has been coming to those meetings too. We're really trying to look to see what we can offer and support similar efforts in other parts of the region, so that we can help make sure that folks who live outside of Greenfield also have access to these kinds of services in the future. So also thank you, Kelly and others, for reaching out to those with lived experience. I know we had a previous meeting about that, and I know you'll be getting input too from the North Quabbin community as well. But this is very exciting, and again, I know many blood, sweat, and tears go behind projects like these, and I know there's many unsung heroes that's contributed to this. So thank you, and looking forward to the ribbon cutting someday.
Great. Thank you, Deb. Are there any other hands? Anyone else who would like to speak? By the way, you are welcome to make comment this evening, or we would certainly accept any sort of comments. If you wanted to email those into our office, you can email them best to Christian LaPlante. And the deadline for getting comments into us is, Christian, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder and ask you that.
I believe it's February 7th.
Great. So thanks so much. All right.
I have just a question about Monday. Is it the same information as today, MJ?
Yes, we had, since there's, people are sort of between being online and also in person, we decided to offer it both ways to accommodate the maximum number of people who would like to participate in this. So tonight is online, and then Monday night we'll be doing it in person. It will be the exact same presentation. The only difference will be that hopefully my slideshow will work a little better for me. And the second piece is you won't hear the comments that other folks are making. I will share with you, though, that we are gathering together these comments, and they will be in the minutes of this meeting, this public hearing. But yes, and I truly appreciate when social service agencies that have requested funding come forward and offer their comment on that. That's very helpful to us.
I'm sorry, I didn't get what you won't hear the comments that other people are making on Monday?
No, they will not hear your comments that you're making this evening.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We'll hear fresh
Thank you.
comments from anyone who's there Monday night, and then we
Okay.
put it all together in a summary for our as part of our grant submission. So
Thank you.
So if the question is, do I have to come Monday also if I came tonight? The answer is no, you have Monday night off.
Unless we want to.
Unless you want to, you're more than welcome to, but thank you. Are there any, oh, Peg, I see your hands up.
Thank you. So what a nice segue. So yes, thank you for having this online option. That is greatly appreciated by some of us, at least by me. If there's anything you could do to have Tuesday also have a hybrid option, that would be wonderful, because I'm still not walking into rooms with people that are all unmasked. And I do feel like I don't have an opportunity to put hear what's being said when that's the only option. Meanwhile, to put it on the record, hearing wise, I wanted to speak in favor of sidewalks. I love sidewalks. A lot of our sidewalks are awful. I walk everywhere. Every time I walk, I think about friends in a wheelchair. I think about my mother with her rollator, and I think how many people are locked inside the entire winter, and even when there's no snow, it's just really not much better. So any place you can fix sidewalks, I'm thrilled. This year's project helped a lot. I'll definitely push for that. But I particularly wanted to say yes on any of the housing stuff, especially the Wells Street at the moment. And again, this is just going on record. I think you all know this already, but it's my understanding that a lot of the other grant funding will probably not be available to be used for the temporary relocation during construction. And I think that's something that should be waved around as a particular need for the CDBG money, that piece of that project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Amy Clark.
I'm glad you said that, Peg. I wanted to speak to that portion of it too, that we had read that these funds were available to help with the temporary shelter. And that feels like a big concern, how that, when you talk about how things all piece together to make it help, to make things come out smoothly, that's one of the big issues, I'm sure. Interesting to see on your initial map that the fire department moves about this time, maybe a little later next year. And I would encourage us to hang on to where they're living, take down all those other buildings, but hang on to the ones they're living in, because 10 or 12 people could immediately, the day they move down the road, those beds could be available for people to live in. So, we have a lot of wonderful, wonderful plans coming a ways down the road. Urgent need is for space now, I think, and in the next year. So I mean, that's just something I would throw out there, that maybe that's worth considering, that if all the other leased buildings where the trucks are come down, and the office buildings, but there's a spot where people are living comfortably right now, and could that be reused for another year or two in the change process? So I also would say I have not parallel parked once since I got my license. And so if downtown Main Street is all parallel parking, I am in real big trouble. So just throw that out there.
Well, anybody who wants to talk about parking or the downtown configuration are welcome to the January 31st meeting or the February 9th meeting. And I hear they've invented cars that do parallel parking for you. All right. Any other comments about the CDBG 22-23 application? Because I have two other agenda items just to cover in this public hearing. So I'm seeing no other hands up, so I'm going to go ahead and launch into the second item, which is to accept community input on the allocation of program income funds to complete design work for the ADA improvement upgrades to Greenfield City Hall. Let me give a little background. First of all, program income funds are grant funds that previously loaned out to, for the most part, to property owners, homeowners. And when they sell their house, they pay that money back to the city, and we're able to use it, recycle it, and use it for other community uses that are CDBG eligible activities. So that's called program income. It's not part of the grant that we get this year. It's a repayment of grant money that we previously received that we can then reuse for CDBG eligible activities. Meeting handicap accessibility requirements is a very eligible community development block grant activity. And several of you know that we did a ADA self-assessment and transition plan for the properties that are owned by the city of Greenfield. There is some work that needs to be done on City Hall. I'll share with you that there is an earmark to provide some funding for the actual construction, but to be able to access those funds, we need to be able to do design work with an architect so that we can have a good plans and specs and bid ready plans, so that when we do access the earmark, we know what we're doing and we know how much it's going to cost. So we are looking to take some program income funds, probably in the nature of about $25,000, to hire an architect to prepare this architectural plan and cost estimate so that we can move forward to access the earmark that's in the state budget and get some work done largely on the bathrooms and the ramp for City Hall. So does anyone want to offer any comment or have any questions about that? Pretty exciting stuff. I see a couple of thumbs up, so I will note those. Joanna, I see that you have a comment. Yes.
I'm thrilled that, you know, that this is a priority thing and that there's going to be looking at City Hall, because holy smokes, does that building need some work? It is, when I get there, I always feel a bit like I've engaged with battle and I'm coming over the ramparts to get into that building. And it would be a really interesting opportunity to show that we don't really have to cut corners on our historic buildings in order to meet 21st century social values. So I'm really excited to see what happens with City Hall.
Great. Well, it's not going to be anything big and splashy. It's just going to be some renovations to make it, you know, make it compliant, especially the
anything is all to the better.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other comments on that? All right. Seeing none.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was supposed to put my hand up. I just want to say ditto to what Joanna said. Can we just double what she said?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. With that, I'm gonna move on to the third piece, which is to provide an update on our community development block grant activities that were funded with our fiscal year 18, 19, 20, and 21 awards. And my goal is to just give you a brief update. I'll share with you that community development programs require that while each grant is running, we hold 2 public hearings. Number 1 before we submit it, and number 2 during the course of the while the grant is running and while we're implementing the activities, just to keep the community appraised of what we're up to, how things are going on the project. So I heard that, Jan. Let me tell you what's going on. Open up my sheet here. Okay. So we, for our fiscal year, our community development fiscal year 18 grant, we funded several activities, which included housing rehabilitation, some commercial improvements, and some public facility work and some social services. All the work is complete under that fiscal year 18 grant, with the exception of one housing rehabilitation case that we're still working on. You might know that we also received some gateway housing rehab money, which was designed usually with the housing rehab money from CDBG. You can spend about $40,000 per unit to bring it up to code. I'll share with you that some of the housing units in Greenfield need a little bit more than $40,000 worth of work. So we were able to provide some additional funding with the CDBG funds to upgrade some houses that had been foreclosed and were being brought back onto the market. We have 2 projects under the Gateways program. One was a rehab of a 3-unit home on Elm Street. That's all 100% complete and in occupancy. And then the second project, I'm really pleased that we were able to work with the Compost Collective, who works with people transitioning from the jail back into the community. And they run an apprenticeship with the co-op program, their Compost Collective. And they said that the biggest challenge they had in keeping people as apprentices was having them have stable housing during that process. So they actually acquired a property. They'll be using it to provide housing for the apprentices in their program, and I think it's a home run all the way around. Again, it's been a little challenging because of construction during COVID times, but we're looking forward to that project being completed this spring. The CDBG 19 activities also included some housing rehabilitation work, some commercial improvements that included a micro enterprise assistance program, and we did ADA improvements on a property, a commercial property. We also did infrastructure that involved rebuilding Hope Street sidewalks from Olive to Russell Street. We did the design and engineering for the West Street Water and Sewer project. We've provided funding to GSET to run GSET services up to Leiden Woods. And we also did social service programs. The social service programs, that year, we funded the Center for Self-Reliance, which is the food pantry run by Community Action. And we also did congregate meals by LifePath. The only open CDBG 19 activities at the moment is we're doing the final piece to get into Leiden Woods, which I understand is they're working it out this spring. And the other piece is that we had a little leftover money in a bunch of little pockets, so we pulled it together, and we're actually going to be able to provide a little assistance on one final housing rehab project, which is the Greenfield Housing Authority owns a 4-family property down on Deerfield Street that has some foundation and water infiltration issues. So we're going to provide some funding to help them correct that issue this spring. And then we will be done with our program year 19 activities. For our CDBG 20 activities, all activities are complete with the exception of the downtown revitalization plan, which we are now updating. You know, we had the first workshop last Thursday. We'll be working through that and hoping to present it to the community and to City Council in March. And there were, we also that year funded the food pantry, the Center for Self-Reliance. We also provided some funding for LifePath to do their meals program. And that was where we also provided funding to the literacy project to complete the great work that we heard about earlier in this meeting. Then our CDBG, we had a special grant for COVID, which we served as the regional lead for 26 communities in Franklin County to provide grants to very small businesses called micro enterprise assistance to help them weather the COVID pandemic. And we have completed those activities together. So we were able to put out into the communities $650,000 to a total of 47 small businesses. Micro enterprises is businesses that have 5 or fewer employees. So these were the small smalls. And all those loans were forgiven in their entirety. And then the Community Development 21 activities, the work that we're doing now is public infrastructures where we're doing West Street, completing the phase 2 of the water sewer construction. We've substantially completed that and we'll be coming back in the spring to finish the paving and do the driveway aprons. Then the other CDBG 21 activities that are currently in the works, again, food pantry, continuing operations with some CDBG funds, LifePath continuing their meals program for elders up at the John Zahn Center, and again, the literacy projects. So that's what we've still sort of moving along, moving through completion and looking to get our new grant application in. So we'll be ready to start up later in the summer, early fall with the next round of CDBG activities. There. Are there any questions on any of that? Yes, Joshua.
I had a quick comment that I just wanted to say that the GSET expansion to Leiden Woods was integral to many of our students attending remote classes during COVID. So, you know, just noticing some of the connections and overlaps with that this grant money supports in the community. And Lulu, my daughter, wanted to say hi too. Do you want to say hi, Lulu?
Hi.
Great. Hello. Great. Thank you, Joshua. Any other comments? Any other questions? And again, I share with you the opportunity that if something comes to mind and you want to offer us some comment, we're still open to receiving that. You can find me or Christian and now Anna on the second floor at 324 Main Street. Always happy to answer questions that people might have or explore options that we might be able to use community development block grant funds for. I'll share with you that on a quarterly basis, the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee serves as my ongoing Citizens Advisory Board. So you're also welcome to ever dip in on the quarters to hear what we're up to, or to, if that's where you want to offer comment, we'd take it there also. But really pleased to be able to serve the community in this way, and delighted to have our new staff member Anna on board, and very appreciative of the hard and detailed work that Christian does to keep us all on track. And appreciate all the comment that folks have been able to offer us tonight, and hope you stay engaged. Thanks so much.
Thanks, MJ. Thanks for all the good work.
Thank you, Nat.
Everybody.
Thank you.
So we're going to close this
Bye.
public hearing at 7:25 in the evening. Thank you.